Hey, welcome back to Next Act Ninjas, the number one podcast for mastering your health and wealth longevity. I'm your host, Rachel Van Pelt. And if you've tuned in recently, you know we've talked about the concept of rightsizing versus downsizing. Rightsizing is about customizing your home to match who you are today, as well as who you're growing into tomorrow, rather than simply downsizing because of your age. Today, though, I'm adding a new twist. We're focusing on how your personality and your health span both factor into finding that sweet spot, that Goldilocks perfect fit for your next act home. After all, it doesn't matter if you've got the cutest condo on the block, if it's in a place where you can't easily get to the doctor if you need to, or if you're stuck with a big yard you can't maintain once your mobility starts to decline. The point is to strike a balance that allows you to really thrive rather than simply age in place. Traditionally, downsizing is focused on reducing square footage and expenses. There's often an undertone of loss, like you're giving up space and comfort because, well, that's what retirement is supposed to look like. Right sizing, on the other hand, flips that idea on its head and it asks, how do I create the home that truly fits my needs, my aspirations, my finances, and my daily routines? That might indeed mean fewer square feet, but only if that smaller space is going to serve your lifestyle. Or it could mean a lateral move or even an upsize, depending on how you envision your future. It's about genuine alignment, not a one size fits all decision. Today, I want to expand the conversation by weaving in the impact of health span on your decision. Lifespan may be how long you live, but health span is how good those years are. It's how long you remain strong, functionally independent, and engaging in activities that bring you joy. If you spend decades in retirement, how fully do you want to live those years? The home you choose needs to support that. It needs to support your physical, mental, and emotional well-being now and in the future. That's why I want to unpack how your personality, how your preferences, and your physical health, not just finances, all play a role in how you think about your ideal next move. But before we get started, just a heads up, I'm going to pose some questions today to help you think through your own personal preferences and your health span. You can either grab a pen and take some notes while you listen, or if you're like me and you tend to listen to podcasts on the run, I've created a handy questionnaire to make it even easier. All you have to do is go to the link provided in the show notes and you can answer those questions to get a feel for where you land. But let's start with personality. It probably sounds obvious. Of course, personality and personal preferences matter, but you would be surprised how often people overlook the question of how do I actually want to live day to day? Instead, we tend to focus on what's practical or what culture says is appropriate for our age or our stage of life. But you don't have to follow the crowd on this. You're unique, right? You have your own temperament, your own hobbies, and your own life rhythms. So start by thinking about how you feel socializing. Are you an extrovert or more of an introvert? Do you generally come to life when your house is full of guests, or do you feel a sense of relief when you get to curl up in the quiet with a good book? And what about neighbors and neighborhood get-togethers? If, for example, you absolutely love having your neighbors or family over for the holidays or weekend visits, then you probably want a larger living space, or at least a configuration that easily accommodates guests without feeling too cramped. On the other hand, if you're a homebody who thrives in solitude, you might be perfectly fine with something a bit cozier, maybe a one-level cottage or a small condo, as long as it's in a community that respects your need for peace and quiet. Personality also shows up in how you handle extra features in a home. If gardening in the sunshine is your definition of a great afternoon, then maybe having a big yard is worth all the extra maintenance because it keeps you active and fulfilled. If you're more the type who's happy just to admire other people's flowers without having to go dig in the dirt yourself, you might lean toward a property with less outdoor space, or even one where an HOA does the lawn care for you. The key is to be completely honest with yourself about what genuinely energizes you. And of course, what feels like just another chore. Think about your passions. Are you a woodworker who needs a decent sized garage or workshop to continue your hobby? Do you have a flair for painting or sculpting? Maybe you crave an art studio with plenty of natural light to work in. Is your dream to have a home gym so you can exercise every day without having to go to the gym? These aren't just frivolous extras if they light up your day. They're central to your retirement if they are going to keep you mentally engaged and excited about each new day. And let's also address health span. Many of us are in great shape during our 50s and 60s, but what about our 70s and beyond? Obviously, we can't predict exactly how our health will evolve, but we can acknowledge that our needs will shift. And sometimes it happens rather quickly. One of the biggest factors that I see people struggle with is immobility. If you're already dealing with knee or hip issues, or you anticipate that's going to become a challenge, do you really want to be navigating lots of steep stairs multiple times a day? If you've always fantasized about a mountaintop cabin with great views, how comfortable will you be if you have to drive windy roads to get to the store or a doctor's appointment when you're a bit older? Now, it doesn't mean you have to give up on those dreams entirely, but you may want to proactively plan. Maybe you can choose a property that has a main level bedroom and a laundry area so you're not constantly running up and down the stairs. Maybe you can find a mountain property that also has a convenient transportation system or grocery delivery. The goal is just to anticipate those potential health struggles so you don't find yourself regretting the move. You don't find yourself isolated or struggling to maintain a property that once seemed perfect for you. And be just as thoughtful about your home's layout. Ask yourself if you'd be able to renovate certain features for greater accessibility if the need arises later. Some folks love an upstairs master's suite with a spectacular view, but what if the stairs become a burden later? Are you going to be able to invest in modifications, maybe turn that main floor bedroom into your master suite? If so, you have more options, don't you? If not, it might be wiser to choose a home that's already friendly to your aging joints. And think about the yard. There's something wonderful about stepping outside and feeling the grass under your feet, especially if you love puttering around the garden. Yard work is great. It can keep you active, it can support your health span. But if you're already struggling with back problems, or you know that your back is probably not going to cooperate in a few years, you're going to probably end up needing to hire landscaping help. And that just means you're going to have to factor in the extra expense, won't you? Alternatively, you might just find yourself a place that doesn't require that kind of yard work, and you find other ways to stay physically active. Which brings me to the question, how much space do you really need? Many of us have grown into bigger homes over the years, and of course, we've collected decades worth of things to fill those homes, haven't we? The minute we approach retirement, we start wondering, how much do I actually need? We start walking through our home and we realize that we never set foot in that formal dining room, or that the basement has just become some big storage unit. And that extra space and stuff can begin to feel like a heavy burden, a load that we just want to unburden ourselves of. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we should automatically downsize. I think it's incredibly useful to determine whether the spaces still hold any real purpose or joy in your life. If you can confidently say, you know what, I only use that fancy dining room once a year, but when I do, it's magical. I love to have my whole family seated there. Well, that's something to keep in mind, isn't it? Maybe the annual holiday tradition is worth all the extra square footage. You might regret giving it up. But if you feel relief just thinking about never having to dust that chandelier again or vacuum a formal living room that nobody enters, it might just be time to let go of the idea that you need to maintain all of that unused space. Even when we're talking about space, we need to take into account our personality and our health span. For example, you might find that you long for a spacious art studio because painting calms your mind. It keeps your brain and body active, your creativity flowing. Knowing that about yourself is wonderful. Maybe you can turn the dining room or basement space into your art studio. That's the smart way to thrive in place rather than just age in place. On the other hand, if you're hanging on to a 4-bedroom house solely because it's what you've always have, you're probably just incurring extra expenses and upkeep that don't fuel your happiness or your health. The trick is to find that sweet spot. The sweet spot between having enough room for the life you love and not so much that it starts to weigh you down, to feel like a burden. When we talk about where to live, it's tempting to dream of scenic vistas or milder climates. However, the location that you choose can drastically impact your social, emotional, and physical well being. Some folks are drawn to urban areas, places that are full of restaurants and theaters and museums. If you're the type who thrives on cultural buzz and loves being able to walk or take quick public transportation to get around, city life may be exhilarating for you. The key is to make sure you're able to handle the hustle and bustle. Sometimes what seems lively and fun at 65 can feel overwhelming at 75, especially if you're dealing with health, mobility, or cognitive issues. Instead of an urban environment, you might crave a more rural setting with wide open spaces where you can see the stars every night, hear the crickets. And I think that's beautiful until you need to go for regular medical care that's an hour's drive away, or you'd feel isolated without a car once driving becomes tricky. If you love that rustic charm enough to handle those trade-offs, more power to you. Just make sure that you've thought about how you'll manage everyday tasks if your mobility or energy levels change over the next decade. Healthcare access, I think, is often overlooked when we get excited about a new home. If you already have health conditions that require regular checkups or specialist visits, living near a reputable hospital or clinic is a huge priority. Even if you're healthy now, it's worth asking how far you'd have to travel when something does crop up, as it inevitably will. And of course, we can't forget the social factor. Do you want to be near friends and family? Some people move to be closer to their children or grandchildren, but family dynamics can change, can't it? If you're moving primarily for that reason, think about whether you genuinely like the area or if you'd feel stuck if friends or family move away. Even if you're not moving to be near friends or family, be sure to factor in your ability to make new friends, either in your current home or the place that you're moving to. Is it a sociable neighborhood? Is there a community of faith that you feel comfortable plugging into? Because remember, social connectivity is an important piece of the health and longevity puzzle. So you're going to want to factor this into your decision making. A question that I hear often is whether to find your forever home now or to accept that you might move more than once as your needs shift. And I think each approach has pros and cons. A so-called forever home lets you plant deep roots. You get to spend time really building social connections and customizing your home to thrive in place. It can be really reassuring to know that you're not going to be packing up boxes again anytime soon. On the other hand, you might not be quite ready to settle in. Being willing to move multiple times gives you flexibility, doesn't it? If you're more of an adventurer, you might enjoy spending a few years here and a few years there, maybe a few years in a mountain cabin, then moving to a sunny beach town and later to a condo in a walkable city. But let's face it, moving can be stressful. It's physically exhausting and it can be costly. If you do anticipate multiple moves, it's a good idea to be strategic about timing and resources, especially if you expect any changes in your health or mobility. Sometimes what seemed like a fun, easy move at 65 becomes a real burden at 75, even if you pay movers to do all the work. Of course, we can't overlook finances, can we? Rightsizing is all about lifestyle alignment, but downsizing is still a good strategy for freeing up equity that you can put towards retirement savings or travel or hobbies. That's one of the biggest appeals of moving over staying put, isn't it? But I want you to be careful not to base your decision to move solely on cost savings. If you move just to save money and are unhappy with your new lifestyle, that's going to cost you mentally, emotionally, and maybe even physically. And it may not free up as much money as you think it will. Before you make any move, be sure to take into account all of the costs of the new home. Remember to factor in moving costs and monthly HOA dues or yard maintenance fees if you keep a big lawn. Also look at local taxes, home insurance, and the cost of renovations that you might have to make that more accessible. And don't forget about the expenses of getting to and from medical appointments. If you're living somewhere that doesn't have good public transportation and you're no longer comfortable driving, you might find yourself relying on taxis or rideshare services, which just adds to your monthly bill. The goal here is to balance your desire for a certain lifestyle with a realistic view of your financial picture over the long term. Now, one of the best ways to avoid regret is to just try living in a place before you make that big move. If you dream of a life in the mountains, I highly recommend renting a house or condo there for at least a month. This is easy to do now through short-term rental platforms like Airbnb and VRBO. Just see how you handle the altitude or the winding roads. Notice whether the isolated setting is peaceful or it feels lonely. Maybe you'll discover you love it even more than you imagine, or maybe you'll find out that you're bored by day 3 because there just aren't enough local events for you to plug into. The same goes for an urban condo. If you rent one for a short while, you'll quickly learn whether you adore walking everywhere or you hate the noise and proximity to neighbors. Spending time as a local is so incredibly valuable. It's going to give you a real glimpse into the day-to-day lifestyle, something that you just can't get from a quick weekend tour or a few online reviews. I've seen a few common mistakes over the years that you might want to watch out for. One is overestimating your ability to handle physical tasks indefinitely. I think it's easy to say, hard work keeps me active. And that's wonderful right up until your back and your knees start to protest. Another is chasing a bargain on a property that's far from everything and everyone, which might sound economical at first, but it can lead to feelings of isolation. Some people also relocate to be closer to family without truly liking the region they're moving to. And if family members move or you end up seeing them less than you hoped, you're just going to feel stuck. And of course, there's the emotional side. Letting go of a longtime home can be bittersweet. So it's crucial to give yourself space to process the feelings and make sure that nostalgia isn't just trapping you in a house that no longer serves your best interests. Throughout this process, make sure that you and your partner, if you have one, are on the same page. I've seen couples struggle with the heartbreak of moving because one person wanted the calm of the countryside while the other craved the city. Having an open and honest conversation about your vision of the future is going to help prevent these kinds of regrets down the road. Bottom line, rightsizing is a more comprehensive way to think about downsizing. It's a holistic way of looking at how your personality, your health span, and your finances fit into your long game. It's about finding that living situation that not only fits your current self, but can adapt to the person that you'll be in 5, 10, or even 15 years. By taking a clear-eyed look at your hobbies, your physical abilities, your finances, your broader goals, you get to craft a plan that's going to help you stay active, social, and feeling fulfilled for as many years as possible. If you're feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension, that's totally normal. Moving or even just reevaluating your lifestyle, it can tend to stir up a lot of emotions. But it can also be a thrilling chance for you to shape your next act, to shape it around everything you cherish most. And remember, you're not alone in this. I'm here to help you optimize your long game. Go complete that questionnaire in the show notes to gauge where you land with all of this. And then book a free call with me if you want to start strategizing. I just love helping people go from aging in place to really thriving in place. That's all I have for today. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Next Act Ninjas. Until next time, live well, love more, age less, my friends.